don't have to go through the formality.
Okay.
Now we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as is, or any changes?
I'll approve that agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. So now we'll move on to a special, do we have any special presentations? Really, until later on the agenda. Head on to public comments, which is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. We'll start with those who have already turned in their slips to speak. And we'll start off with Joe Ibarra, Wausau, Michigan.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge and commend Commissioner Marlene Webster in serving our county and her district with honesty and dignity. The citizens of this county depend on our elected officials to be open, fair, honest, and work for the greater good of the community. Attending these meetings is a major part of your job. Your schedule should allow time for regular commission meetings, work sessions, executive sessions, special meetings, and public hearings. As an elected official, you're expected at many unofficial gatherings, from jail garden open houses to drug court graduations, which certainly should not be paid by the taxpayers. You are elected to serve our county, to make excuses why you attend each other's meetings and double dip into the county funds is a disgrace to the citizens you represent and an embarrassment to our county. Thank you for your time.
Lenore McMaster, Wausau, Michigan.
Good afternoon. I'm here to address the board as an employee of the county. As I read the agenda sent to all county employees, I have to share my feelings towards Agenda Item B under Finance and Administration. As I listened to the finance meeting online Monday, I was curious why, in these times of budget crisis, the board would consider creating a new position of Assistant Finance Director. As I listened to the discussion, our current Finance Director sometimes has to work 10 to 12 hours a day. I wondered if the board was going to right-size most offices in the county. I find it a slap in the face as an employee that often works through my lunch, doesn't leave at 5, and often is in before 8, all without compensation. My office and I could easily work 10, 12 plus hours a day and still not be caught up. As the board has asked every department to cut 15% from their budget, ask employees to contribute more to our retirement, which I feel is not unreasonable, and the threat of layoffs, why would this even be an item of discussion? My coworkers and I discussed and decided to continue to furlough after the job share program ended to help contribute to the savings for the county and perhaps save people from being laid off. The thought that you would create a new position seems absurd. If the basis of this position is because the finance director is working 10 to 12 hours a day, the same could easily be said for most county employees. At this time, I ask the board not to rush into a decision and table this matter for a further date. Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to address the board that hasn't turned in a slip at this time? Okay. Hearing none, we will head then and move into our committee motions and report. We'll start off with our Finance and Administration Committee report. Chairman Plum, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A, I move to authorize the budget adjustments for the Sheriff's Department. Second.
Have a motion and a second on item A. I think it's in our packets as the first page goes through.
Right, you want me to do it all?
Yeah, to increase in revenues, to increase in expense.
Yeah, we received a grant, and you have to apportion that grant to the items which you purchased, and it's uniforms and cleaning, uniforms and cleaning, and I believe it's for some vests too. Vests. Okay.
Any discussion on the item? All right, hearing none, all in favor of moving it forward to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Move to approve the creation and posting of the Assistant Finance Director position.
Support.
Item D has been moved and supported. Discussion is open on item Yes, we have some discussion on this. I would start with, I don't know that we meant 10 to 12 hours. I think we mean till 10 or 12 at night is what we mean. There's times when Tracy's in here till 10 or 12 at night, working on budgets, working on the audit, working on things. And we passed an employee in the clerk's office because they needed help. But then we continue to leave our person here without help. I mean, we need to, it's not a job that's going to take effect now, it's into the new budget. Dr. Boggs can probably touch more on the budget and the work he's done on the budget to make it so that this is possible, but I mean, we've all seen what's going on with the audit process, what's going on with the players that are involved in preparing the audit. I know that the media and commissioners and other offices like to point that it's all the commissioner's fault. The commissioners are the ones that are supposed to do the audit. We should all be coming in here doing the audit ourselves. You know, the Democrat ads are false. That's not true. It's not a true narrative. It actually takes departments and it takes people in the finance office and it takes people in the treasurer's office. And the bottom line is we don't have the work and the help over here that we need to get done. Because we are depending on doing all of the work for the other departments.
May I?
Yes,
My understanding is that this finance position, and we all know that finance affects every single department in the county, this finance position is going to be one that is going to actually help many of the other departments with their financial work. And so it is to benefit everybody. It's not to benefit just one department. So it's important not to think about it territorially as if this department got something and we didn't, but this is for the whole county, and I think it's important to remember that.
Yes, you may.
I'll sum those two discussions together. Many times Tracy would spend her day hours helping other departments get their work done. And then she'd have to stay here to get what we call the sum of the parts done. That means all the budgets and everything. It has been difficult for the amount of activity that the state demands now and the federal government for reporting. I believe we have 158 reports we have to do a year now. It wasn't so long ago, we did maybe 25 or 30. So there's a lot more to do. And we've all realized that. And so we want to create this position and fill it.
Mr. Chairman, yes, I have a comment. I think we all need to remember we are under a corrective action plan with the Michigan Department of Treasury. We were required to comply with that plan by the end of 2019. We have yet to do that. We cannot mess around with this. If it were not for Tracy, we would probably be looking at a state takeover of our finances. This is not something that we can just brush aside. And we spend a significant amount of money cleaning up errors from the entire year, and we call it audit prep. It's not necessarily audit prep, it's fixing everything we don't do the entire year. So if we have this person to help other departments, to help this office do things correctly in the first place, it's always easier and more efficient to do it right the first time. So let's certainly keep those things in mind. This is not just about the hours Tracy works. This is about us complying with the State Department of Treasury. I think they are expecting us to do that.
Other commissioners, yes, sir, Mr. Minister.
So I don't have an amendment, maybe I'll have one tomorrow, but call it audit prep, call it right size, whatever. If Tracy is spending all this time helping out offices, maybe some of those offices that need so much help need to be right sized also. And that's where the funding comes from, but I'll have more tomorrow on that.
More to come.
More to come.
Commissioner Holtzman.
Yeah, if Tracy has to work that many hours, maybe we should just give her a little raise. Instead of maybe taking on a whole new person with all the liabilities
I agree,
and
Gary, but
healthcare and all that, so.
she's got to sleep.
And all these other departments need help, there must be problems in those departments. If they got departments can't take care of their own thing, that we gotta go over and babysit them, that's not good either, so. The way I see it. Every department wants more help, so.
May I confirm who seconded that? Was it Commissioner Webster?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's sometimes hard to hear.
That's all right. Dr. Boggs, I saw you had your hand up.
Well, I am sympathetic to the plights of the other departments, but the fact of the matter is, these are not wholly owned subsidiaries of some other corporation. They're all part of the Shiawassee County government. And if things are not in working order here as the mainframe, the superstructure, they're not going to be able to hire additional employees later on. Because we have to get the finances set here at this level so that we can continue to make progress so other departments can hire more staff. I realize the court is severely understaffed in the circuit court side. And so are some of the other departments, including, we're not replacing the gentleman who passed away this year. That was part of their budget cut. And there's more work that has to be done. But if there's no way to pay for them, that work's not going to get done either. So, I mean, it's really about making sure that our finances are in a safe place so that other departments can get the services that they need and the help they need, including additional personnel. Because if it continues to just, it's not, the county administrative offices are the head of the body. And the clerk's office might be the right hand, and it might be the best right hand that it could possibly be. But if the body dies, so does the hand. And so without additional help and support managing the finances, it's going to be difficult for them to expand later on.
Are we gonna have this permanent for the next 10 years, or maybe not as a person too? I mean,
Well,
is it that bad over here?
at least for the next year, we need someone to help get all the debits, the credits, all the things entered into the system. If the board wishes to remove it after 2021, that's a discussion for the budget. But I think we definitely need some help at least in 2021.
Any other question or discussion from commissioners?
I would just add to Gary's, Tracy has indicated to me that it is gonna take her another year. She's been here a year. She anticipates taking another year to get us where we should be. So, maybe Gary, maybe it won't be 10 years.
Pardon?
Maybe it won't take 10 years. If we can, it's always easier to get the work done when you're not a year behind.
So this position is full-time, 100% finance, no room for any human resources stuff incorporated in? I know we've had this discussion about human resources, or at least I have since I've been here for almost 4 years now, the need to have somebody, more people, handle the human resources side of the county.
Doesn't mean that it can't. But I do know that in particular, there's always been a need for someone from our office to go over and work with family court, for us to go over and work with different departments that have trouble with the state grants and budgeting allocations. This person will be able to have some time to go over and work with these departments so that it's right at the beginning. In the long run, as Commissioner Garber mentioned, I think that the audit prep bill will go down substantially, more so than what we're paying for an actual individual. But it's going to take time. Things need to be sorted through.
Other questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of pushing item B on to tomorrow for a final vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries with 2 nays.
Move to approve the Shiawassee investment policy as presented.
Second. Motion and second on item C. Questions or discussion over this item? None. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And that motion also carries.
I move to accept the state grant for the Public Defender's Office and authorize the county coordinator to execute the state grant agreement.
Second. Motion and second on item D. Questions or discussion over this item? All right, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. That'll be the first time I've ever voted for that department. I know you noticed that. Starting to get used to you.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll be around, and I don't regret it.
I move to put the draft budget on file.
Motion,
Support.
a second to put the draft budget on file. This gives us a month to take a look at it, look through it, fine tooth comb it, make sure that we like what we see. We can obviously make adjustments come next month. It's just a draft. So probably, I'm sure we'll hear more from the chairman, but take a month, look at it. We'll go from there. It's just a starting point. Any other commissioners, questions, discussion?
Well, it's a very good starting point, which Dr. Botch talked about the other day, asking these departments to do the 15% cut, meeting most of the cuts with relatively next to no personnel layoffs, no frozen steps, zero from our delinquent tax fund, into next year's budget. So for it being the first presentation of a draft budget, Dr. Boggs has worked hard on it with Tracy and the departments to get these together and put it together. So, just something that, we should be talking about and being actually proud of the work that's been accomplished, because this was no small task to take a budget that was where it was last year and have them ask for a 15% cut when we know things are tough, when we know sizes of offices aren't right sized, but everyone for the most part has done it. So that's a task that should be talked about and, given credit. So thank you to everyone. And that's the department heads and elected officials as well. They did the lifting and moving and cuts, and so that's something that I can't stress enough. We're tied up on other things, but we should be focusing on that.
Good. Anything else? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Putting it on file. Do we need to vote on this? Or just something?
Yeah, you don't have to.
All in favor of putting it on file, take a month to look at it, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, it's an official.
It is official.
I move to add the executive session to the Board of Commissioners meeting for Thursday, October 22nd, 2020.
Motion for an executive session,
Support.
second. Questions, discussion?
Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, what part of the agenda does this become? Is this in the beginning, is this in the end? The only reason I ask is because I've got an out-of-county meeting at 3, 4, and 7 tomorrow. So I'm just trying to figure out what time is this executive session going to be held?
What will be for the end of the meeting?
At the end, okay.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
I move to approve the CDBG authorizing resolution.
Second.
Motion for item G is second. Items open for questions, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to accept the MSP award and execute the contract agreement for the grant.
Second.
Motion and a second for item H. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to approve the Register of Deeds to post for a replacement position.
Support.
Motion and support for item I. Questions, discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Plowman. We'll go ahead and move into your second report then, Economic and Physical Development Committee.
I move to approve the Public Act 116 Farmland Agreement application for Mr. and Mrs. Scott Miller for all of the properties listed.
Support.
The motion and support for item A. Questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Same. Motion carries.
I move to approve the request for amendments to Public Act 116 to allow installation of solar panels on the property for parcels ID 008-02-200-001-01 and property 008-02 200-00102.
Second.
Motion and a second now for item B. Questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
I move to approve the bid not to exceed $10,470.50 from Collard's Concrete for the sheriff's parking lot.
Motion and support for item C. Questions, discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move to approve the apportionment report and direct the spread of taxes in terms of the millage rates to be spread on taxable values.
Item D has been moved and supported. Questions, discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Carries.
I move to approve the 2020 drain assessments as proposed. Support.
Motion and support. Item E, questions, discussion over the site? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Unanimous.
I move to approve the county civil infraction ordinance and set the public hearing for Thursday, October 22nd, 2020.
And that's been moved. Do we have a second?
Support.
And a second?
If anybody has any questions, Pete's here.
Yep. Any questions?
If I may make one
Yes, you may,
clarification
absolutely.
over here. I stood before the Economic Physical Development on Monday and said the only revision was to the fee portion of it. We've now provided you one with the red line. We actually had some additional changes. That was my fault for reading out the draft. The changes are minor, just listing other staff for the designated name of the person, code enforcement officer versus building official. And instead of having a word like reasonable, we actually put a time frame on it. So I didn't want that to go without being said that there were additional amendments in there from the first reading.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Item F. Hearing none. All in favor, moving forward to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to appoint Sarah Payton as the designated assessor and as such approve the local unit interlocal government agreement.
G's been moved. Second. Do we have any support? It's open to the floor for discussion. Hearing no discussion. Item G, all in favor of moving it forward, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item G carries.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Palmer. At this time, we'll move into our Public Safety and Courts Committee report. Commissioner McMaster, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, item A, move to approve the 35th Circuit Court contract with the Michigan Mental Health Court grant in the amount of $55,800 and the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant to Burke JAG in the amount of $92,000 and the Swift and Sure Sanctions Probation Program in the amount of $51,000 and authorize the board chair to execute the documents.
Item A has been moved and supported. Questions or discussion over the site? All right, hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McMaster. So we'll move into our final report of the day, our Health and Human Services Committee. Commissioner Garber.
Item A, I would move that we approve the contract between the Shiawassee County Health Department and Shiawassee Health and Wellness for social work services in the maternal infant health program in the amount of $60,000 for a period of November 1, 2020 to October 31st, 2021, and authorize the health director to sign all necessary documents.
Motion on the floor for item A, for HHS.
Support.
Support, open for discussion.
Thought we weren't going to have a program there for a minute.
Hearing no discussion over item A, everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. And motion carries.
Agenda item B, I would move that we approve the contract between the Shiawassee County Health Department and Michigan Primary Care Association for the Perry Public Schools Mental Health Program in the amount of $100,000 for a period of October 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2021, and authorize the health director to sign all necessary documents.
Support.
Item item second, we'll give it to Commissioner Holzhausen. I was open for a discussion, questions. Hearing none, all in favor of moving item B forward to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Okay, unanimous.
Agenda item C, I would move that we approve the contract between the Shiawassee County Health Department and the Michigan Primary Care Association for the Durand School Wellness Program in the amount of $150,000 for a period of October 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2021, and authorize the health director to sign all necessary documents.
Support.
Item C has been moved and supported. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item D, I would move that we appoint Gary, I think it's During, to the Veterans Board.
Support.
Motion and a support for item D. Anyone with questions or discussion over this person item?
I do have one comment. I did come from the Veterans Board meeting this afternoon. They are anxious to welcome Mr. During to their board. And good news on that front, we are up to 9 volunteer drivers. The best situation we've been in for a while, so good there.
Good deal. All right. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of moving item D forward onto the final vote tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item D carries. Anything else?
Actually, yes, if that's all right, Mr. Chair.
It's your floor.
I do have a policy question. A couple of weeks ago, on a Sunday, I was driving by the building here, probably on my way to Meyer, and I noticed the lights on. We've been doing some things with the carpet. So I stopped in and had a conversation with a county employee, buildings and grounds employee, and there had been an incident. An unfortunate incident. It did result in a call to Commissioner Webster on a Sunday, call to Dr. Boggs. The thing that I don't understand here is that the person making the allegations, the unfounded allegations against a department head was not an employee. As we dug into it the next day, the person's also not contracted. So we have a person doing cleaning with access to our buildings that is not an employee, that is not under contract, to my knowledge is not bonded or insured. So is this our policy? That's my question. And why was this not brought forward?
Why was what?
That we have a person in our buildings that is not an employee, that is not in any way contracted. So is this a verbal agreement? Is this, what is it?
I don't know the person, but she called me on Sunday afternoon, and I don't know why she chose me to be the person called. I called Dr. Boggs right away. She represented to me that she was under contract with the health department and that she was bonded and insured. So whatever arrangement she has, I believe, was with the health department. Whether it was a contract or not, I don't know, but I believe that, like, Larry signed.
So you weren't driving by, you just.
I was not.
No, I was
She
driving
was
by.
driving by. She called me just to say, here's what happened, and I asked Dr. Boggs to check into it, and he did. And it was found to be unfounded, but the terms of how she was here and why she was here, I do not know.
So when I called Larry to ask him about it, I asked for a copy of the contract. There was not a written contract, so I don't have any files related to what their agreement was or any files to the bonding or other insurance. Upon reviewing the information, because there was video related to the county employee and the third-party contractor, it was found that the third-party contractor's allegations were not substantiated and was terminated as a result.
So my question still stands though. So to your knowledge, Dr. Boggs, there is no contract and this person is not an employee. So we have someone doing work here at the county on a verbal agreement. Is that our policy
That should
or
not
is
be
it
our
not?
policy. So it was an amount, the contract amount, in my understanding, was for $15,000. That is an amount that exceeds the board policy that requires the board to approve and enter into such contracts. To my knowledge, you guys did not enter into such a contract.
Who orchestrated the contract? This is all news to me.
But there is no contract.
Yeah, but who
It's a verbal contract.
yeah, who orchestrated the contract?
The health department.
So was this
So you better
person,
get here tomorrow.
was this person here, or were they up on the,
They're on the third floor.
okay.
So part of the health department does include half of the third floor.
Environmental division up there, yeah.
Yes, and to my understanding, anything over $5,000 has to be approved by the board. My understanding is it was not a contract that you guys have voted on. There was not a physical contract. I mean, contracts can exist as oral documents. We prefer contracts to exist in writing, and that would be the preferred method of the board. But the power to enter into contract is solely the discretion of this board and no one else.
So, again, is our policy that we prefer?
No,
Okay.
it should have been approved by.
I think
the
it's
board.
been demonstrated that this isn't policy. I'm more interested, to be honest, in what was the incident.
The person, and I want to be completely transparent here. Larry Johnson, health director, did assure me that in no way,
I want to interject, before we get into what the basis was of the contract or what accusations were made, we don't do that publicly.
Yeah.
I mean, we are involving a contractual employee and employment arrangement. So I want to stop this before we go any further on spreading allegations about several parties here when we shouldn't be engaging in that. I think we've made the point that it is not our policy to enter into contracts without board approval. That's the relationship with the health department and the board of commissioners. We sit on the health board. We have several billing, travel stuff we handle. Any contracts we pass through there always come through that board to this board. So there is maybe some questions that need to be had, and if we need to have a meeting to discuss what actually went on, we should do that in a closed session, I do believe, instead of furthering it into the public right now and putting ourselves out there. We've already got ourselves hanging in the wind enough. We don't want to add another thing on top here. But I mean, the point is taken, the point is made, in my opinion. But let's certainly ask those questions of our health director at another
And
time,
further, we could ask,
and our buildings and grounds.
was this bidded out, or is this a no bid contract, like, just more questions to ask. But
And because you did not approve the contract was terminated.
and again, to be transparent, are we allowed to say this person was related to Jeff Barnes?
Well, I mean, we should not get into the specifics. The third-party person would not be protected by the same rights as a particular employee of the county, but because it is adjacent to a particular employee of the county, we should probably not mention the discussing of it in particular details in such a way that would make it identifiable. That was from Lord and one.
Well, I'm gonna kill this discussion, and for our safety, it's over. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna turn the floor over to the chairman of the board.
All right, thank you. I touched on it a little bit, the presented budget that everybody has. Commissioner Plowman's been here, the finance committee's worked on it. Dr. Boggs. A lot of those things were highlighted. 0 out of delinquent tax, that's gonna be the goal, that's gonna be the point, and hope that we can commit to that, stay to that. We had committed to it in the past and were unable to successfully stay at 0. So this will be the first time that we're staying, that we're committed, that we want to be there. Again, we want to emphasize that the delinquent tax fund can be used. It is not restricted money. It is not money that can't be used for anything, that we can't dip into, that we can't use. When I think of the delinquent tax fund money, I think of it as a money that we should use to shore up for operations that may be one-time costs. Implementing a BS&A, one-time cost, that should be a delinquent tax fund if we have it. You know, if we need to, when we were doing the drain building in the buildings and grounds office, you know, a one-time fee of building that building, knowing we're not building a building every year for that to come out. So that would have been, you know, that's my thought on delinquent tax. So when we talk about 0 out of delinquent tax, when we talk about the reforms to healthcare that Dr. Boggs and Commissioner Plowman worked on for quite a while, savings on our end of what we pay, on what we contribute. So it's no change in policy or coverage to our employees. They still get the same plans, they still get, the same thing that they had. It just alleviates the county from having to pay so much. That's another item that we should be championing. Pension. We've been working and working and working on these pensions. We're getting there. Light's at the end of the tunnel now. MERS has come around. MERS has been meeting. They're willing to talk now. That I think when we send the message of we're closing off to new employees, to new hires, that kind of sent the shot around. That they understand that we're actually serious, that the pensions are a problem. We know them to be a problem and we need to address them. And now we are addressing them. So as we go through collective bargaining, I believe Dr. Boggs has already engaged several of our, if not all. There are several that are up this year. Some have a couple more years, but some are tied to wage reopeners, which we are going to aggressively approach during the wage reopener to implement closing of even those to the Teamsters, closing of those to POLC, closing to those divisions as well. So that's another milestone that we're hitting. We're finally getting there. Now, that's not to say the pension liability goes away and poof, we're back to normal, we're in good shape. Not the case. It just simply turns that faucet off and the dripping stops. We know what we're up against, we know where we're at, and we can continue to pay it down. The other thing I want to touch on would be, again, the 15% cut. The 15% cut was probably, it was conservative. I think originally Dr. Boggs' intentions were 20%. So he went with 20 and then was nice enough to offer 15. And I think everybody has met the 15 or is at least within that 12 to 15% cut where we found that it's manageable, where we can move. I don't think, I can't think of off the top of my head, there may still be 1 to 2 staff members that we lose. I mean, one in probate court we're not going to refill, so we may only see 1 reduction in staff. So that overall is a milestone when we were looking at, we may be losing, I mean, realistic, what we talk, 5 to 7 staff members, up towards 10 if we needed to, but that was if and when, if we didn't know it was going to come in from the state, how well it was going to go. We need to hit on Dr. Boggs, and I keep going back to Dr. Boggs because I want us to reinforce the fact that since Dr. Boggs has came on, the ship is not taking on water anymore. It's actually floating, and he's worked on every avenue to get towards where the funding is, where funding is free money out there. Where can we get money from? We lost out on a lot of time and services through COVID. It dropped us back. We still had to pay a lot without making a lot. So Boggs has brought in nearly, I should say Dr. Boggs, but I keep saying Boggs, but Dr. Boggs has brought in close to $2 million in CARES funding and funding from the state to shore up. We've had our, courts, we've had our, well, not our courts, I shouldn't say that. We've had our public safety, our 911, we've had our jail, we've had our sheriff's deputies, we've had our health department, emergency management. These people have been working around the clock, unfurloughed, not taking time off, which I'm not saying the people that took the furlough did not help, because that helped tremendously. Another program that was sought out and looked out for by Dr. Boggs. He sought that program out, found that, presented it, brought that to us. So, I don't know what the savings of the total for furlough were. If you can off the top of your head.
It was $300,000 a month. So it was, at least for those first 2 months, there was $600 and some thousand.
So we've got that savings. We've got $2 million in funding that we've had that have helped to shore up things, that have helped, give little incentives to people that had to work through the whole hard time. So these are some of the things that I, really wish we were hitting on. I really wish we were talking about. But unfortunately, that's not of interest to people. That's not of interest to the news. That's not interest to the papers. So we don't hit on those. So it's a disservice to everybody sitting up here to think that we just come here, we steal money from the taxpayers. We just charge for whatever meeting we want. We make them up. We add whatever amount we want each week. It's a disservice and it's dishonest. Everybody up here that goes to meetings goes to those meetings. They're not sitting here making up meetings that they, dreamt in their head they attended. I mean, the paper hit on Commissioner McMaster charging for plowing. Plowing?
Nowhere in the last 3 years is the word plowing mentioned on this expense voucher. Nowhere. Nowhere. Nowhere do commissioners get full-time health care after 8 years, which would mean Mr. Plowman gets free health care. Do you get free health care? No. Just like 8 years, there's an automatic pension. No. One thing after another.
No.
Yes, there's leadership meetings. Yes, there's planning meetings. It was called COVID. When I was in the Emergency Operations Center every day with Larry Johnson and everyone else.
I mean, it's
Well, if
just,
we're gonna talk about this, can I talk about it? Because you said yesterday.
Where's plowing on here, Marlene?
I didn't.
I don't plow the jail garden. Where is
I would
plowing?
like to continue.
Lies. All lies.
Chairman has,
I'd like to continue.
Lies.
So we were going through and we.
He said, you said plowing. You submitted information to him. Is he lying? Is ours right?
hey, we're done. I don't want to hear any more talking that isn't coming from the chairman of this board. This is an embarrassment.
So what I will touch on to wrap this up, because I don't want it to get too out of hand.
It's out of hand.
The papers have our amounts, as of 2020. Root, $30,140 submitted as of 2020. Marks, $2,550 submitted in 2020. Olshausen, $3,675 submitted. Plowman, $4,510 submitted. McMaster's, $3,425, and Garber, $4,270. They reported that Commissioner Webster's was around 1,800, but yet she submitted 5 vouchers yesterday to this committee that was not in the paper, that was not in the hit job, bringing her total up to $3,795.
No, the 1,800 was for last year for me.
So
The
when she,
1,800 was for last year.
I have the.
That's my full year
I have
that I
the,
submitted yesterday, my full year.
We have it right here.
Okay,
It's in the paper. Paper doesn't lie.
they only
It
had last
says-
year's number
It
because I
says
had not
Webster
submitted this
billed the
year's.
county for $3,195 for meetings in 2019.
That's right.
Her invoices for 2020 have totaled $1,880 to date. When I add these ones that you pulled up and submitted yesterday after the hit piece in the paper, your total is now $3,795.
That is
Which
not
is
true.
mixed right in here, and it's right in the median with the rest of the
That
commissioners.
is not
are named.
true.
It says 1,880 for eight.
That
And then
meeting
you've
total, add them up right now in front of everybody then.
I have them. I have the total right here.
But you're not reading the numbers off, so read the numbers off. Because you're lying.
I have the totals right here.
You're giving a total that is not on those sheets. It's $1,800. You're lying.
Mr. Chair.
If I am reading that wrong, then I apologize.
You are reading that wrong, and I have some questions.
But
Because
my
you said
18
you'd like
my
to answer
18
questions publicly, so whether tonight or tomorrow night, I do have some questions.
But I just wanted to clarify that we have a lot of disinformation and dishonesty going on, but I've highlighted the things that I think we're really doing well on, that we're really hitting on. The budget is a big one. We should be focusing on that, and I hope to see some articles or some positive on the things that are positive towards the county. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think that tonight, with Commissioner comments, I think that it would be good to give us all 24 hours to think about what we want to say and come back here tomorrow, an official board meeting, keep our composure, and then say what you think you have to say. I think that's going to be in our best interest. So I'm closing the floor to commissioners. It's just a committee meeting anyway. And we're going to go right into our final public comment. And if there's anybody that would like to address the board after that show, and I would be the first to apologize as chairman of this board, then we will let you have the floor. Mr. Mankey, it's all yours.
Well, I know that you guys cut off, and it was very, very nice of you to do that. Very polite, very democratic of you all to do that today, just to stop it. But you guys have there's been allegations made just 2 weeks before the election that you folks, I can't see how you can come back and cover yourself. I am very upset because that the person who's making these allegations is from my district, Owasso Township. I'm very upset that she doesn't attend our Owasso Township meetings and attends all of the other meetings that need to be done.
Diane's here.
She does.
She does.
Yeah, our meetings.
everyone can have their opportunity to talk, but we'll give him
I do say that these allegations that have been made and dropped to two newspapers, just 2 weeks before an election, and the person who made these allegations the first day, if I can, you can watch the tape. The very first meeting this person attended said, "This is too much work. We got to change these dates. We can't do this like this. It's just too much to get done." And you all said, "This is the way it's always been done." According to the paper, one of the main concerns was you all are attending meetings that this person didn't think you needed to attend. As a resident of Wausau Township, I want to thank you all for attending meetings in different townships. Thank you for going to the state meetings. Thank you for working. We all knew when you took this job, it's more than a 20-hour-a-week job. Some people don't want to work. I want to say thank you to all of those on this board that want to work, that want to attend meetings. And yes, I believe if you attend meetings, you should be paid for them. And I don't think anybody else wouldn't agree with that. But for a person to attack you and say you're doing too much work, you're going to too many meetings, I'm conscious-able. And I wish that person would resign. Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the audience that would like to address the board at this time?
Yeah, I would. So, most of you all know, my name is Joey Barrow. I'm running for sheriff in the county. Thank you, sir, for getting control of your meeting. If none of you have nothing to hide, let the state police come in and investigate. They will clear your guys' names instantly, just like that. As far as that goes, if you guys are worried about the finances and the budgets and budget cuts, you have a 1033 program that I've been diving into and looking at. You can look it on my website. There's vehicles and stuff like that. Where's that property at? It should be a county asset. That should offset your guys' budget when it gets sold. That's the other thing. As for you, Mr. Root, you looked at me the other day when I was in Mr. Boggs' office and said, Brian Bagol was a B4. What am I going to do about it? Well, I'm bringing it to a meeting right now because he should be a C1. So there you go. That's what I did about it. People need to know what he's getting and what everyone else should be getting. Thank you for your time.
Any other citizens at this time have a right to address the board if they would like to use that right? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.
You know that.